Welcome to the Escape Room. I'm your host Armin, and today I'm happy to introduce my longtime friend, brother, buddy that I can hang out with for longest time and not to get tired, a founder and owner of EA Certs.
Hello.
School, Vahag Zakharyan. Vahag, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for stopping by.
My pleasure to be here.
And my first question, what do you do?
I have a training center with the American Heart Association, which is dedicated to certifying and recertifying mostly healthcare providers, doctors, nurses, anybody that interacts with patients directly. We also provide services to lay rescuers, so teachers, factory workers, plumbers, electricians, and also parents, newborn parents that want to learn how to relieve their newborns from choking.
How not to kill a child.
Exactly. How to prevent that.
All right. And how long you been doing this?
It's been about 5.5 years since the actual business was established. Mm-hmm. But I've been teaching for over 10 years now.
And do you have to go through some school to pretty much get licensed to be able to teach?
You have to be certified with the American Heart Association as an instructor. Okay. In order to be certified with the American Heart Association to be an instructor, you have to have a background in the medical field. And my background started from the EMS world, Emergency Medical Services. Okay. So with that knowledge and background, I was able to make my way towards the American Heart Association and become an instructor with them.
Have you ever had call from a parent or from someone and said that thanks to you because of the classes you did, I saved someone?
I have. It is rewarding. And the most recent one was a brother that once a year we hold a free class for the general public. And a brother from our fraternity was part of the class with his wife. We got a very heartwarming letter from the wife letting us know that he was in distress, choking, and because of the education she received that night, she was able to act and relieve him from choking and save his life.
She was able to save husband's wife.
She was able to save the husband's life because of the knowledge she received that one night.
That's a true love.
That is.
I would think about it.
It's very rewarding. And there's other stories where after 2 years, when you have previous students coming back to recertify and they have stories, oh, I did this and you taught me this, it's stuck to my brain. I was able to act and do this, and I was able to relieve somebody from choking or do compressions. I felt more confident, so it is rewarding.
That's awesome. And do you have any stories that happened to you and you were
personally,
you used your knowledge?
Work-wise, when I used to work on an ambulance, we used to put all that knowledge to work on a daily basis. But in a personal life, my neighbor's son was walking in front of me, just turned blue out of nowhere and started choking. And I was able to relieve him from choking instantly. Other than that, with my kids, just keeps me more calm. Doesn't let me freak out.
Gives you more confidence.
More confidence. If, for instance, my daughter, she was maybe 4 or 5 eating candy. She started choking, but she was still breathing. And I was just watching her. Just watching her. Everybody's freaking out. I'm just watching her because I know she's still breathing. And she eventually coughed it out. And she was able to save herself. And I try to teach that to the students where you have a newborn. And if they're choking and coughing, let them. Because you're not going to be with them 24 hours a day. If they choke, you can relieve them from choking or any other scenario. So let them learn life and experience that on their own.
So in your opinion, which student is more rewarding to teach? The medical professional that should know how to save life and pretty much stay calm and provide necessary help, or the parent that was never prepared to save life, and because of the education that you provide?
To me personally, it would be the doctor or the neurosurgeon that I'm teaching a class that has learned. And with my teachings, since he has the knowledge, the background of medical school and many years of experience, and I'm able to provide him with new knowledge, and at the end, he approaches me and says, "Oh my God, I learned something new today." Wow. I think that's most rewarding for me, because for the parents, if they come in with zero knowledge, I'm expected to provide them with everything. But with somebody that has 20 years of experience and another 10, 15 years of school behind them, and they approach me and tell me, I learned this specific subject or technique that I didn't know about, that's the most rewarding, I think.
So, how about the business part of running the company and providing service? It's a very, very narrow field and niche. Do you have a competition? Do you consider someone as a competition? Or you guys, if there is someone that provides same type of service, you guys support each other, maybe like refer services?
So competition is high. There's a lot of competitors out there. As far as supporting each other, I have reached out to some, and some instructors have reached out to me with training centers, and we do support each other. If it's a location or time-wise where I can't help them, or there's a specific certification that I cannot provide for them, I definitely refer them to the surrounding facilities that I know will provide with good service. But competition doesn't really frighten me. If anything, it helps the business when you are providing quality service, because they have something to compare your business with. And if they've been to training center A and they come to us and they see the quality difference, and they value the different quality and the higher standards that we have, that makes us shine above the rest.
The question I ask pretty much every guest I have: why should I choose you? How are you different?
Because the knowledge and the dedication and the teaching technique that we use, not to repeat the same subject over and over, but I've had nurses for one specific subject with ACLS. We teach heart codes, heart blocks. When the electrical conduction is interrupted, that seems to give most healthcare providers the most trouble. And I've had so many cases where a 30, 40-year-old experienced nurse approaches me and says, I've never understood this as clearly as you have explained it.
So just simplify and break it down. Don't waste their time, most importantly, because everybody's time is so valuable. And don't use $20 words to explain the subject.
Exactly. When you simplify and give them the necessary information, I think that makes us shine above the rest. And obviously, being flexible with scheduling. We offer classes almost every day where the most complaint that I hear is, I tried to sign up for this specific course. Everybody else was offering a month from now, but you guys have it almost every day. And timing-wise, if a doctor is in need of getting certified within the next 2 days, and everybody's a procrastinator, so everybody waits till the last minute to take care of their personal needs and licensing needs. And if we're able to book a specific class in a specific time period, or even on a weekend, and I think that makes us shine above the rest.
And do you offer do you have specific location, or you just conduct a class at facilities?
Our training center with the American Heart is located in Glendale. We're right across from Glendale Community College. That's where our primary classes are, but we do offer classes outside the facility. We work with a lot of camps where we travel with the equipment and the mannequins to their campsite, and we teach all the coordinators and everybody that's going to be involved. We work with hospitals where monthly, several times a month, we'll be at the hospital location teaching the staff. We'll go to nursing homes and dialysis centers and daycares. So we are located in Glendale, but we do travel as far as Riverside, Long Beach, but we travel far.
That's awesome. And as being a professional in the field, is there anything that you would change if you were the one that makes the law, or improve, or something that as a professional you know that can be done better?
As far as
like laws, regulations,
I think the way the guidelines are set with the American Heart Association, I like the way they're set up because it stands out from the other major companies like Red Cross, and there's other private businesses that offer the class. I don't think I would change anything. There's minor stuff with the algorithms where we constantly discuss with doctors where you're supposed to use a specific technique when the patient's in an arrest, but nobody follows it and they haven't implemented the changes yet. So minor stuff like that. But as far as the business structure wise, I think it's pretty spot on.
And when it comes to, most of the professionals that I'm dealing with and having conversations, the most of the fields and professions are predicted to be obsolete in about 20 to 30 years time frame. Do you see your profession dying out or being replaced by AI, or improving by AI but still being very useful and being as a profession that you can refer to a child or to your kid to choose that?
It's funny you asked that question, bringing up the child, because my youngest daughter, she was asking me, can I start working for your business? Because her brother, who's older, does help and contribute in certain aspects. So she wants to participate in the business as well. But as far as AI, there is technology now where instead of every 2 years getting certified, they have specific mannequins and specific programs in the hospitals where once a month they go perform compressions and they demonstrate their skills, and it extends the life of their certification. So in that aspect, there is a little effect, but the need and the demand is so high that I don't think it will affect us in the long run. And there's also automatic compression devices. Some hospitals and mostly fire departments are implementing that in their day-to-day operations, where it straps down onto the gurney and the patient, and instead of having a person manually perform the compressions, the device is performing the compressions on them, which is highly beneficial for patient care, because most of the time when a patient's care is jeopardized is when you're transporting and moving the patient. So that eliminates that factor. But as far as affecting the business, I don't think that will have a negative impact, because the other aspects of the business of teaching them the resuscitation, the medications, and defibrillations, all of that needs to be taught, where you can't have a robot, at least not yet, starting an IV and pushing a specific dose into a patient, because we're not that advanced, but I'm pretty sure one day it will be where it can recognize the rhythm of the patient and identify what medication to give. But you have to have visual of the patient to recognize signs and symptoms. And based off of those signs and symptoms, if somebody's complaining of pain in their ear, it doesn't mean that the robot's going to fix the ear, because somebody can be having a heart attack and only present pain in the ear. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, last month I had 2 students that had 2 separate patients that went into the hospital complaining of ear pain only, and it ended up being a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
That was the only pain presentation.
Wow.
Yeah. And another example of that where human interaction is necessary, patient goes into the hospital with a broken arm. They do the assessment, x-ray, they align, put a cast. When they're discharging, the patient starts complaining of pain in his thumb.
Uh-huh.
So they tell him, dude, your arm's broken. Here's pain meds. Go home. The patient comes back the same day complaining of pain in his thumb. They don't know what to do. They do a 12 lead, an EKG of the heart. The guy's having an SD segment elevation.
Oh, wow.
So he had a MI. And the only pain presentation is in the thumb. So yes, robots can take over and do a quick assessment of the entire body, but I don't think we are at that level.
So when it comes to the general knowledge of providing first help, is that subject taught in schools, or if not, would you change that law, and do you think that it's very important to teach people how to provide basic help from young age?
In my school, in my high school, it was a medical magnet school, and during health class, they did teach us CPR, which I found very interesting. And to answer your question, yes, it should be mandated for all schools to teach, even as young as an elementary school, because somebody as young as 10, 12, 14 can still provide aid or the basic knowledge of calling 911 and at least pushing on the chest, doing compressions is going to be better than hiding under the table scared. Because if somebody has been taught, second nature and muscle memory tends to kick in. Yes, even though the fear is there, they'll still provide aid until the fire department responds.
Isn't it weird that every single person on this planet operates a body, and not many of us have a user's manual?
It is.
Like, there are few basic things that we need to be taught, like maintaining simple hygiene, providing basic help, not to overeat and have a belly like this, or not to starve to death, or I understand if you take any holy book, Bible, Quran and stuff, it is a user's manual, but we're so far from the religious part, especially in advanced Western civilization, that we kind of forgot that part of how to be a human. I mean, every child, grab any child, 2 years old, 3 years old, he knows how to turn on the laptop and pull the application, but basic things, how to, I don't know, start a fire or cook an egg or stuff like that, or provide first aid, is way far from our priority list. And sometimes I have that wish that I can start some kind of school or class to be able to raise a generation of kids, at least, I don't know, 5 or 10 kids, to teach them the basic stuff. Not being rocket scientists, not being the super entrepreneurs, but being a decent and effective human being. So do you think that it's part of being a decent parent to teach your child how to provide basic help? Even if let's say you're not a professional and you're not teaching others how to provide basic help, first aid, as a parent, would you send your child for classes like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My kids show constant interest in learning CPR. I have a big mannequin where you can intubate. It's way advanced, their age, but they show constant interest. And it is very important, because if you look at a simple fact of not eating enough salt or eating too much salt, it can affect your health, or even bananas or avocados. The potassium level in it, let's say for somebody that has renal failure, they have poor kidney function and they eat too many avocados, that can throw the heart into a cardiac arrest and end their life. So when you go back to the manual of the human body is so amazing, the way we developed from the sperm and the egg, and inside the heart, there's a little valve that's open, the ductus that's open, that allows blood to bypass the lungs because you're in water, you're not using it, and as soon as the fetus is born into an infant, the ductus starts to close. Or the heart, where there's a block and the communication is not getting through one chamber or the other, it starts picking up and gathering pacers and other information from the other sections of the heart. Basically, the body is designed to keep it alive.
Yeah.
Simple fact, if you want to commit suicide and you hold your breath, your body's going to shut you down, knock you out, so you can breathe. It's a benefit, and it can harm patients if you're in water. That's one of the negatives, where humans, if you're drowning in water, as soon as you pass out, the body's reflex is to gasp for air. Yeah. And when you gasp for air underwater, your lungs are filling up with water. Now your other system is kicking in when you're coughing out. When you cough, you need to suck the air back in. So a bad situation turns worse. But luckily, we're land creatures. We don't have to worry about the water aspect. But yes, I think everybody should learn, and everybody should be taught the basics. How to take care of your body, how to take care of it well, because, like you said, this is one vessel that we have for this planet. We don't take care of it well, then either we're going to suffer for the rest of the time being that we're out using this vessel, or it's going to end fairly quickly, and we don't know what the next level is.
That's true. And when it comes to having a conversation with your kids about how to maintain good quality of your vessel, as you named it, or how to maintain decent hygiene, or how to be useful in society, what is the number one thing that you would suggest to your child, like, when it comes to being a good human? What's the most important factor for you? What's the most important suggestion that you would give to your child?
I think giving them suggestions is different than showing them what to do. I've, again, back to my daughter, at a young age, she kept using this specific word, and I'm thinking to myself, who taught her this? And she was using it towards her brother, like, hey, you. Yeah. Then I started thinking about it. Who taught her this word? And I realized that nobody did. When I'm angry at my son or he does something, that's how I address him. And that she picked it up. So I think my actions of being healthy, being active, being caring towards other humans, and no matter if it's the restaurant owner or the busboy or the waiter or the valet, and you treat everybody equally and treat everybody with the same respect, I think showing them is going to be more effective. Like my daughter, she's 7. I don't remember where we were, but there was a donation box, and she took out her little purse and her wallet. She took out $20, and she was going to donate it. We didn't tell her. We didn't donate anything that day. She just seen it. Yeah, she's seen it. She knows that it's a constant habit, whether it's at a restaurant or a church or anywhere else. That kind of got implanted and in her brain, and we're like, what are you doing? Even towards family and friends, I think showing them how to be a good human being is going to be more effective than me sitting there and lecturing them, son, you need to donate, you need to not use profanity, this, that. I think showing them is going to have more of an effect then.
There's actually a very interesting story that the father is pretty much preaching his son and saying that he's like, hey son, at your age, Abraham Lincoln used to be able to memorize a whole book. And the child turns to his dad and is like, well, Dad, at your age, Abraham Lincoln was a president. So You're right. The way you act is more effective to teach your child than the way you try to teach him by words and by saying. I've actually had this conversation with my youngest son a few days ago, and he asked me if I'm scared of death. And having a conversation of being afraid of death with an adult is different. But when you're having a conversation with the child, 9 years old, and trying to explain to him that death is not the end. It's part of a cycle. For many billions of years, every living organism on this planet faced that. So that's the living proof that it's part of the cycle. What's going to happen next?
We don't
know. But being scared of the inevitable fact is pointless. So what would you say to your child?
The way I live my life, I don't think I have regrets, and I'm not afraid of death. What I don't know if I would tell my children this directly, but the way I feel about this, obviously they're going to hear it now and they're going to know, but what I'm afraid of is leaving them behind unprepared what the world has for them next. Whether it's financial or educational or just the psychological of having a father with them. So that is my fear. But as far as being afraid of death, it's the inevitable. All we can do is, when that time comes, have no regrets and not have the doubt in your mind saying to yourself, I should have gone on vacations more instead of working. Or I should have spent more time with my kids instead of going to work.
I actually recently saw a tattoo on the internet, and somebody tattooed on his shoulder, no regrets, and scratched out. Even he doesn't even regret the spelling on the tattoo. It's fun.
Yeah, no regrets. Live your life to the fullest.
Yeah. And let's get back to the running business in California. We actually went through, all of us suffered, the whole world, not only California. We actually end up going through COVID and lockdowns and all that stuff. And we had this not natural economy spike. And now it's going down. And the way I see and the way I hear the predictions is going to be more and more painful for the next few months, maybe a year. As a business owner, how do you prepare yourself for economic downturns, and how long you think you can last through recession if it happens?
In this line of work, as far as recession and the economic fail, I don't think it will be affected. Yes, during COVID, we did take a hit like everybody else, but it wasn't as drastic as restaurants, for example. Mm-hmm. Most hospitals extended certification. So if you were going to expire in March of 2020, they said you have a couple of months. So we're just going to turn a blind eye. Your certification is extended. Come back to work. There were hospitals that didn't even accept that. They said, no, you still have to get certified. Uh-huh. But as far as preparing for the worst, I think financial preparation and being able to survive in your own household and being able to maintain the lease, the rent, the equipment that you have for the business, I think financially, if you are prepared for minimum of 6 months, because within those 6 months, you're not going to sit at home without making any income. I'm pretty sure some residual income will start coming in. Like we saw government aids and programs for those businesses that were suffering the most. Yeah. But I think for the 6 months, if you can afford the rent and the luxuries that you have, if you can eliminate those without harming yourself, whether it's a luxurious lifestyle of vehicles or traveling and restaurants, And if you can eliminate that without causing major harm to your family, I think you will survive it. And if you survive it, you can actually benefit from it too.
Yeah.
My take on benefiting is not to benefit on anybody's harm, but with financial downturn comes recession and the housing market going down. If you have any financial means where you can participate and purchase, and even stock markets. Right now, the stock market is at its lowest. And if you're able to purchase stock and forget about it, not check on the market constantly, expecting your $1 to turn into $1.50 where you can cash out that 50 cents, but buy it and forget about it, because 5 years from now or 10 years from now, that $1 might turn into $3. Yes, it might disappear, but the likelihood, if you have smart investments, it will become $3 or hopefully more dollars.
Do you make any investments in stock market?
Yes.
Okay.
I am not very active, but I try to contribute as much as possible. And
for long term.
Long term. I did get into the cryptocurrencies, but I don't understand it as well. And for long term, there's only one or two that I see that you can benefit from.
They might last.
Bitcoin, I was reading about, it said it might go down to $3,000. I'm hoping. I mean, a lot of people will suffer, but me personally, if it is down to 3,000, but the large anticipation is eventually it's going to be at $500,000. If I can buy one Bitcoin for $3,000, even if I don't benefit from it, my kids can benefit. If not them, my grandkids can benefit from the $1, the 3,000 turning into 500,000. Then I think that would be the smart way to go.
Why not? And do you do any research, or like, is it based on like professionals' opinion, or you know how to pretty much read the financials of the company?
I don't know how to read financials. My research is friends and family, and there is one or two YouTube channels that I follow. And whatever predictions they've made and whatever advice they've given,
so far
it hasn't let me down. So I tend to stick with their knowledge. And if there's a prediction saying this particular company is selling at 100 and it's expected to go to 150, then I usually stick with them. But if a friend or a family recommends a specific stock, I go for it. There's one that there's two actually that I invested a lot in.
Probably one of them is
the same one. And haven't benefited. But going back to financial stability is, once the stock goes down, I'm down thousands of dollars in that stock. Yes, I can sell it and have maybe $500-$700 back or $1,000 back. But because I don't need that money right now, if I leave it alone, 5 years from now, it might make more money than I've lost.
So number one rule is invest with the money that you can gamble and lose.
Exactly.
Not your life savings.
Exactly. When I put money in the stock market, I don't need that money.
It's the money that are gone. Okay.
But obviously, you of course need the money, but that specific timing and that time frame, if the money disappears, it wouldn't affect my day-to-day life. I wouldn't lose out on rent, mortgage, or anything else.
And how big is your team at the company? Is it you, or is
I keep it small for personal reasons. I've worked with companies where I've managed over 100 employees. Going from that, less headache. I don't want the headache anymore. There are some instructors that I can rely on at times, but mostly it's not needed. So for peace of mind, I try to keep it as small as possible.
That's awesome. And do you invest in other businesses besides the main one?
There is one business that I invested in that went down. I didn't take a major loss, and there's another business licensing that I'm applying for. Hopefully that picks up. But again, trying to keep it small. Investments for me, I tend to go with more real estate investments because I see more future in that rather than business and employees and workers' comp cases and lawsuits and headaches. Obviously, you can have lawsuits and major issues with real estate as well. But from my experience, it has been more positive than negative. So I tend to lean towards the housing market rather than businesses.
And when it comes to free time, if you have any, what's your most favorite way of spending free time alone? I mean, I'm sure you have time for your family, your friends, but if you spend time alone, how you prefer to spend it?
Alone in my living room. I'm my lazy boy in front of the TV. That's my alone time, but that's for a couple of hours. And honestly, I don't like being alone. Even in the car when I'm alone driving, I would rather call somebody and have a conversation on my drive rather than be completely secluded and by myself. Yes, there's days where might drive to a mountain and park at a nice view and just sit down in the car and relax. But overall, I like to be, especially around family.
And to stay in shape, do you work out or yoga or what do you do? I mean, based on our abilities, it's kind of...
So I always tell my students this when it comes time to going to the gym and working out. I went to the gym and I had an Apple Watch. And in between workouts, I was going up and down the stairs and the heart rate warning kept popping up. And the heart rate, normal human is between 60 to 100. It went to over 100 and then it went over 150. It was in the 60s, 160. I was like, this is harming me more than it's helping me. So I quit. No, but in all seriousness, my exercise is being physically active, whether it's going fishing and constantly walking around, it's hunting and you're going up terrains, going down terrains. Or physical work as in construction on a property or helping out a friend, carrying 2x4s and just being physically active. Okay. And if I notice myself getting out of shape, I've had a gym membership for the last 5 years and I've utilized it maybe 6-7 times in the last.
Consider donations.
Yeah, donations. But I know in the back of my mind that it's there. And if I do notice myself being a little lazy or getting out of shape where sitting down in the car, you can feel your belly on your lap, I'll go to the gym for a day or two. But dietary restriction for me is most key. If I don't feel that well, instead of eating a burrito and a taco for lunch, I'll eat a salad and I'll tend to keep that diet. And instead of eating super late or eating super unhealthy, I'll tend to go for fruits and snacks, more healthy options. But yeah, not the healthiest and the most physically active, fit person in the world.
And how about being active? I mean, I know you're part of the same fraternity as I am. Do you enjoy being active in community and being helpful to group of people or community without actually being recognized and rewarded?
Absolutely. Personally, it's satisfying and rewarding when you can help somebody where you're not looking for their help back. Being active in communities, volunteering, even being as young as 14, 15, I would always volunteer, whether it's with school or at a hospital or at a nursing home where you're walking around showing support to the elderly that are just constantly laying in bed with no human interaction other than the staff. Yes, I do enjoy it.
That's awesome. And there's a big trend, especially was very, active closer to the end of 2021. A lot of people and business owners were moving out from California. How do you see, is it getting harder to run a business in California, or it doesn't affect you much as a business owner?
As a business owner, because of the way I have it structured, it's not affecting me, but I do see the burdens that the state laws are putting on business owners. As a landlord or a business owner, you're always in the wrong.
Yeah.
Whether it's a lawsuit, the courts, judges tend to favor the employee and the tenant rather than the landlord. And a simple example is with the COVID outbreak, all the tenants were able to live without paying for rent.
Yeah.
Where the landlord, as the owner of the property,
has to make
you still have to pay your mortgage. Yes, there were some loopholes and there was a little help, but if you weren't paying your mortgage, it was adding up. You were not getting any support, where 6 months from then you would have to pay everything at a lump sum. So you were either going to suffer then and there and make your payments, or suffer 6 months from there and having the burden of that large, very large expense on you. It is difficult, but as far as moving out, I don't think I could move to a new state because of the ties that I have with family and friends surrounding. And I think that would be the most difficult, being secluded in a different state with no interaction.
And when it comes to raising kids in California, I mean, with all this, there are very, very interesting questions that my kids ask me about gender, about sexual orientation, and what's the difference and what's good and what's bad about it. And I have nothing against any sexual orientation. But sometimes I have a feeling like being straight is wrong. So, especially for people who come from different countries and have long ethnic background and traditions and religion background, explaining to your child 64 genders is rocket science. So when it comes to tricky questions, how do you do it, and what would you change? And because the reason I'm asking is a lot of people that I know, that was the main reason that they end up moving out from California.
So the exposure for my kids is through movies, and it seems like even the smallest cartoon or any movie, child-related movie, it's implemented in there, which more power to them. Let an individual live a lifestyle that they wish to live. But as far as preaching that to children and trying to push their views onto others, I'm against that. I think that's one of the main reasons why I send my kids to a private school.
Yeah.
And there is no exposure or discussion or any context relating to that. So again, their only exposure is through movies. And I'm pretty vocal of my own personal opinions, whether it's around my own family members or friends. Some may like me for that and some may not. But I'm okay with that because I know my values.
You just have your opinion.
Yeah. And I think I haven't had questions like that, whether it's right or whether it's wrong, because they know how I feel about specific subjects. And again, going back to not talking to them, but showing them how you feel or how to act, I think that kind of reflected onto them. And I think they have the same moral values as me. There has been cases where, not relating to genders or anything, they've questioned me. Why don't you believe in this specific subject, or why do you not like the color white, or why do you not like an acorn tree, and why do you like a plumeria plant? Just an example. And explaining to them what's right and what's wrong, at least for me, and for my views, they tend to accept it. Because again, my views and what's right for me may be wrong for somebody else, which I accept, as long as they're not trying to explain to me and tell me that what I believe in is wrong.
The reason I asked you, I've actually had this conversation with a friend of mine a few days ago, and he said that he've heard a story or he read some topic that so pretty much some artists or some author, like he described some hero in his book, and the way that he described, he was like he was a Caucasian white person, and some kid had this complaint like why the hero of the book should be Caucasian and white, why can't be any other race. And the way I see it, the person who wrote that book saw the hero in his image. The guy who actually built the first casino in Macau, China, was the same guy who owns Venetian in Las Vegas. So when there was a stage that they had to build the sculptures, he hired these guys who's making sculptures of the stone from China. And all the faces of angels were Asians. So he had to hire a professional from Europe who can teach those kids or those professionals how to make European faces, because he's the owner, he's paying.
That's amazing.
And he wants to see European faces, and there's nothing wrong. If I'm an author of the book, I think it's my right to describe the hero the way I see it, and there's nothing offensive. Become an author of the book, be a Latino or I don't know which race you want, and describe your hero the way you want it. Yep. He can be an alien. So it's not the fact that you see something the way you see doesn't have to be wrong, even though if it's not popular opinion anymore.
The part that bothers me the most with scenarios like that, there was another case where illiterate people were making a big deal out of Disney only having white characters, and then they said, no, we have Aladdin, we have Maui, and all kinds of races from their specific regions of the world. So that person is illiterate, but the part that irritates me is we have the freedom of not to read that book. Nobody is forcing you to read that book and go give a report in a public square. And if you don't, you're going to get executed. You have the right. You don't like the book? Don't read it. There's movies I don't like. There's books I don't like. If I don't like it, who's forcing me to read it? Why am I going to read it, get irritated, and make a big deal out of it? My life is short on this planet. I do whatever I enjoy. And for the person that is getting irritated, I think they have nothing else in life of value, that they have to create drama and problems in order to satisfy themselves.
So if you read historical books, there's a lot of referrals, especially in Roman Empire. When the Roman Empire was at its peak, it was pretty much the same condition as we have now. Because of the abundance of everything, the food, the safety, the finances, people started paying attention to the stuff that doesn't make any sense. And that's when the great collapse of Roman Empire pretty much started. So do you see that the Western civilization is at that peak? And are we getting closer to collapse? I mean, I know you're not an economist, and neither am I, but
I do see it based off of the research, the mice experiment. What was it called?
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact experiment.
The name of it.
Yeah, it was. They had numbers in it, but if you do research mice experiment, and they did the experiment multiple times where the same cycle, and I think we are at the end of the cycle where the scientists finally quit and released the mice because it got to the point where They were not caring about building their community, their habitat. They were not caring about reproducing and enlarging their communities and getting stronger. Everybody cared about self-care and self-beauty and self-grooming, and the population levels of the tiny mice start dropping. The mothers were not taking care of the newborns, and all they cared about is themselves. And financially, yes, I can't speak on that behalf because I don't do a lot of research and I try not to get involved. But as far as reading the mice experiment and seeing how the world and how people are acting and reacting towards each other and towards specific scenarios, yeah, I do see a collapse where we're going to have to rebuild back up.
Why else? It could have been done like few generations down the road.
Right? But even few generations down the road, when you look at them, like our parents and our grandparents, they went through 2 world wars and they went through so many other problems. So I think each generation has its own wave of problems.
That's true.
My phone freezes sometimes. That's a big problem.
It is, right? Compared to not having phone.
Yes.
Well,
we're trying to hide from shells that are being thrown at you.
That's true. That's true. And about when it comes to getting new information and discovering new fields, and what's your favorite way of watching movies, reading books, of exploring new horizons?
I think it's interacting and socializing with individuals. I've completely isolated myself from the news and the media. The only time I actually watch television that's broadcasted is if I'm in a hotel and there's nothing else to do.
There's nothing else.
And you watch commercials and you watch the daytime shows on the evening shows. But other than that, I've isolated myself from news and social media. Something might pop up. But mostly it's interacting and socializing and networking with the large crowd of people that I'm surrounded by.
And when it's coming to running business, I'm pretty sure it comes to a level when you get to a point that you realize that the basic knowledge of how to run a business is not enough to grow bigger. What's the best way of continuing self-education for you?
Number one, I would say surrounding myself with successful people, because there's been a time where I've surrounded myself with people that, not that they're not successful, but their mindsets are a little different and their goal orientation is not what mine is. But surrounding myself with people such as yourself and other brothers and friends and family that I have that is goal oriented and success oriented, I think that's number one. And educating myself, whether it's watching specific videos pertaining to business or growing business or reading a book or listening to an audio book. But I would say for myself, number one would be, again, surrounding yourself with the right people and having the right conversations instead of discussing sports, discussing actors and actresses that will not benefit
Cute
me.
ones.
Yeah, that's a different subject. But people worry about sports and they stress and they're constantly discussing it. There's no benefit to me. Or world affairs. Yes, I do care that other people are being harmed and damaged, but in that specific time period, if it doesn't affect me directly, I'd rather send my energy into an alternative source and try to benefit in a negative situation, where whether it's by buying stock or helping somebody out in a bad scenario.
You mentioned that you actually witnessed the fact that your daughter decided to donate to some church.
I don't remember, honestly. I think it was a restaurant or it was a donation box.
So the way I see it, you actually do donate, and do you actually budget like certain amount of donations every month, or is it just random act of?
It's a random act of
will.
Yeah, it's random.
Okay.
If an opportunity arises, whether it's on Instagram and they're having GoFundMe for a deceased brother, or this family's parents passed away from an accident, or whether, again, going back to restaurant, because that's my favorite, when you have somebody that is, that is struggling and they're working maybe day and night to support family, and providing them with the donation. It might not be $1,000, but if, for an example, at a restaurant, kids' balloon flies in the air, and without asking anybody, you see the kitchen staff coming out, getting a ladder and bringing the balloon down, giving it to the kid without you having to ask anybody, I feel satisfaction in giving them tips. And even though they refuse most of the time, but forcing, no, please take it. And that makes them feel better. And that encourages them to be a good human being, because if in that scenario, they bring a balloon down, you're like, okay, go away. That's going to discourage them from doing something good for another human, because they're doing it without looking for the reward. They're not expecting to get any gratuity or anything from it. And so it's mostly random.
No, the reason I asked is like if you go to if you read like it's very popular in Jewish tradition to actually budget, and it's not only Jewish, like Catholics do that too. Tithing, like 10% of your income, you just have to somehow donate, and it's considered as powerful as investing in any new venture in business. That was the reason. I mean, I've tried that a few times, and it's really hard to prove that was the reason that I've had some kind of success.
Good karma.
But it can be a karma. It can be just the way I kind of trying to align the points to prove that I did something right. But that was the reason that I asked you if you budget your donations, and or it's just random. Because I mean, I guess one of the main reasons, the way I see that the person decides to become a business owner, is to, I don't want to call it to be your own boss, but to be disciplined enough to discipline yourself. And when you make that decision to be that you can be disciplined enough to act the way you plan, one of the main reasons is to be strong, successful enough to be able to help others. It can be your friends, it can be your family, it can be simple tithing.
Or animals. That's a conversation.
If you're not going to eat them.
I was having this conversation with my wife. I was telling her we should come across a large amount of money and retire on a farm and turn the farm into a sanctuary for animals. Whether it's injured possums, whether it's abandoned dogs. But I think, yes, donating towards humans is very important, but contributing towards the animals. And
can I ask you a question? It might sound cruel, but every single thing that we eat besides salt was alive.
Yep.
And every single organism on this planet have to die. Most of these organisms should be killed and eaten, as we do. Do you think that saving injured deer is the right decision, or shooting it down and barbecuing it would be a better idea?
If you're gonna shoot it and barbecue it, yes. I'm a hunter. And see, I have a view on life where One of my goals in the upcoming year is to go boar hunting in Texas.
Uh-huh.
And it's a family retreat where you can take family, and it's a helicopter hunt. People will disagree with you, and they'll say, you're killing pigs from a helicopter with a high-powered rifle. That's just murder. It's not a hunt. The way I see that situation, that specific aspects, is they're nuisance. They're pests. Because going back to our food, and humans need to survive, if they're destroying crops and destroying food and taking that away from either other animals or other humans, that becomes a pest. Just like having a rat infestation in your house and not touching them because, no, they're poor creatures. We don't want to kill them. So in that aspect, if you're going to kill it and eat it, yes. If I see a lion or a gazelle or a mountain lion attacking an animal, eating it, that's nature. They need to survive. Yeah. But if it's on the side of the road, it's going to limp and die. And yes, the maggots are going to eat it. Bugs are going to eat it. And the ecosystem is going to benefit from it. But if you can save it and have it be important for something else, maybe like a kid comes in and pets the deer and gets satisfaction from it, why not? But if you're going to kill it and eat it, yes. As a matter of fact, in Colorado, we came across this deer that was hit by a car. So I pulled over so my son could see it. It was massive. And the body was still warm. It was laying on snow and the body was still warm. So it must have just happened.
Steam was coming out.
So my first thought process was, all right, let's put it in the trunk and take it home. and literally, but it's a fresh deer. It was probably 400 pounds and it's going to go to waste. It's going to freeze and some department's going to come and throw it in the landfill. So it's going to contribute to the landfill. But I was like, let's take it home and eat it. But I was with my wife's cousin's car and I couldn't put it in the back because later she told me the ghost would have hunted me for the rest of that car's life. So,
was it my car?
No, it was Tino's. So I didn't, but I'm not all for saving. I'll hunt and I'll kill. But
I mean, we have to be eaten too.
Yeah.
It's normal. It's part of a life cycle. So I think it's the one of the signs of like super civilized society that is paying attention to unnecessary things. I mean, yeah, it sounds harsh, but like I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that, especially young kids, that they don't even know that the meat that they eat is actually a muscle tissue of an animal, and that animal has to be slaughtered.
Yeah.
But when you take them to a slaughterhouse, they're like, "Oh my God, what's going on? Poor animals, they're crying," and all that stuff.
Raising my kids from a hunt, I brought a boar's head, and we've dissected the eye out together. I've brought home jackrabbits where my son's sitting there dissecting it because not only for the cruelty, but I want him to have the experience with the science factor of extending out the intestines, understanding that, hey, intestine looks this big in the stomach, but when you stretch it out, it's feet apart.
It can be a little... today's episode is very cruel.
It is, but... Well, there was a point that I was trying to make. But yeah, as far as eating the animals and them understanding, I think it's... the point that I was trying to get to is, I think it was Zion National Park where they had a problem with overpopulation of deer and other animals. They introduced, I don't think it was Yellowstone. They introduced a 14 wolves. And nature started growing and becoming at its best. So when you look at that cycle,
the balance.
Okay, somebody might say, yeah, the poor deer is being eaten by a wolf, but the way this planet was created, it needs to have the natural balance. If you knock off the balance and kill all the wolves, they're predators, everything else suffers.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I think there's a natural balance that needs to be kept, like with the boars. If they're a nuisance and they're destroying crops and taking food away from humans and animals, it's a pest that needs to be...
after having a good hunt and fun, or fishing, and what's your favorite drink?
Usually whiskey.
Neat?
Usually whiskey. Neat.
Good.
Neat.
Good. I like that. And how do you prefer to relax?
I'm not a everyday drinker. I'm a social drinker. So if I'm at home with dinner, I'll never pour myself a glass and have a drink. But luckily, I have very close relatives that live across the street from me, and occasionally they'll stop by and we'll play PlayStation or we'll have dinner together. So if I'm surrounded by other people that are willing to drink, so I'm a social drinker. But as far as relaxing, again, if I'm just on my couch, my lazy boy, watching TV, that's how I relax. I might watch something stupid where it doesn't require for your mind to analyze. It's not like a detective show or a mystery where you're thinking who's gonna be the killer. It might be something stupid where you're just watching, like Archer.
What's your favorite book? If you can name one.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I think, is one of the best books that I've read or listened to. Forgotten Fire, since I was young. Being a teenager, I was never into school, never into reading books and learning, but Forgotten Fire, when I started reading the book, I remember exactly at specific times where it was like in high school and it was a cafeteria, it was lunchtime, I'd see my friends hanging out, I would go into a classroom, I would just take out the book and I just wanted to read and see what happened. So the number one book for me is Forgotten Fire.
That's an amazing book. I read it too. And what's your favorite game, table game, or any activity?
Poker is a great game, but Uno, we just started getting into Uno. And whether I'm playing with kids or playing with adults and cousins and becomes competitive and you're yelling and screaming, hurry up, and you're twisting, and I think number one would be poker and then it would be Uno.
Next time you come to our house, ask Helen to teach you Egyptian slaps.
Egyptian
slaps, bro. It's much more aggressive than Uno.
The name says it all.
We actually fight.
Remember, we were playing Mafia with Ellie, and she wouldn't give up, and she didn't let me, and she beat me.
Yeah.
She was one of the players that would not give in on my convincing, and she beat me.
Actually, it's very interesting. Like when I compare my childhood and childhood of my the people of my age, and the way that we raised our kids, and again, I look up to you as a father a lot of times. The amount of time you spent with your kids and even with my kids, and the quality of the time is like on different level. And what I see is that kids feel more comfortable spending time with us. Sometimes it's more than enough. It's like I can see 4 of my kids with their friends and cousins, like 10, 11 kids running around, and they're asking us, like, can you come and spend time with us or play with us? Sometimes you just get frustrated, like, don't you have enough imagination to spend time without involving us? But on the other side is, I think it's a different level of being a parent, and personally, me, I enjoy spending time with them, and I know you do as well. And what's what's your favorite way of spending time with them? Like watching movies, teaching them something, hunting, fishing? What do you prefer?
Outdoors would be best, and it's harsh reality. It's it's going to sound a little
it's luxury,
but me and my kids alone, even without my wife.
Yeah.
Because in the presence of their mother, they do tend to act a little different. But when it's just us, we'll go off-roading together. My daughter will ride quads. She'll get dirty. We'll walk through a river. She'll get muddy. She wouldn't care. my son will be all muddy and dirty and riding quad. His back is covered and he doesn't care. We'll go hiking. Actually, on my phone in the memories, was 5 years ago, memories popped up where we went to Switzer Falls. We've been there together.
Yeah.
It was just me, my son, and my daughter. And we made it all the way to the waterfall. But right before the waterfall, I remember Emily was on my shoulders and my son's walking, and there was a rattlesnake in the path. So I stopped and we turned around and we went back. But seeing the memories, those times where they're outdoors, my son has acorns in his pocket. My daughter is seeing that he's collecting acorns. She's doing it too. Because that's how we grew up, muddy and dirty. I would fall down and scrape my knee. I wouldn't go home. Because I knew once I went upstairs, my mom would go through the torture of cleaning the wound and telling me, no, if you go downstairs, you're going to get it dirty. It's going to get infected. So we would stay outside playing. Not to that full extreme, but I want my kids to have that exposure. Like, we went camping together and they're dirty. There's marshmallow stuck on their face. We don't care. It's camping. Let them sleep on it. They don't need to take a bath before they go to sleep.
It's actually very hard to keep a balance between the technology nowadays and like real life. And I was trying to, like, you're watching multiple podcasts and videos and reading books about how the artificial intelligence is gonna become take over the world and we're going to be obsolete. I'm pretty sure I've heard from many people that I was talking to my wife about buying this equipment, and then I logged into my Facebook, then an ad popped up.
Exactly.
I was mentioning something about going somewhere, and then ad popped up. And I've heard few times from a lot of sources, and I've actually experienced once myself, that I didn't discuss anything.
You thought about it.
I just thought about it.
That's creepy.
And it popped up. And I asked myself, maybe it's already here. The AI is already involved in our lives on a level that we cannot even imagine.
Maybe subconsciously you've typed it or you've searched it, or...
I was sober, not high, clear, not even tired. I was just going through my thoughts, and maybe it's just random algorithm or whatever it is. But
that's creepy.
I've heard that from other people as well.
I've had that experience with discussion. So if my phone is sitting 10 feet away and we're talking about a specific subject, I will definitely get some kind of an ad through the social media. And as a matter of fact, I was at the AT&T building. And once in front of the building, it looks like trash. There might be transients and shopping carts in front of it. But when you go through the back, it's high gates. You cannot access it unless you go through security. And once we pass security, they told me to put my phone away for that specific section of the hallway that we were walking through. And it was a big hallway. And I asked them why. What's here that I cannot have my phone out? And the employee explained it to me that anything that's typed on your phone gets saved there. So if I'm text messaging you saying, hey, bro, how are you? And I'm like, I'm not even going to send it. I back, I delete it. That still gets recorded there. If I upload a photo, I'm like, I'm going to send this individual this picture. And I'm like, forget it. I delete it. It still gets saved there.
The reason I'm bringing up this topic is a few episodes before I've had my other guest from, and we've had this conversation, and he actually came up with a really good idea of if the artificial intelligence and human can be combined, it's going to be the most peaceful transition, and we're going to be super powerful Neo from Matrix. that can pretty much achieve everything.
See, I believe that as technology advances and as artificial intelligence advances, our bodies are gonna shrink in size. Because if you look at, not going too far back, but looking at our grandfathers, they used to walk everywhere. So their core strength was stronger. They could walk further without being out of breath. We lived in high-rise buildings without elevators, and everybody would walk. Even 90-year-old grandmas would walk to the 9th floor, 10th floor, twice, 3 times a day with no issues. But me, right now, if I go up to the 3rd floor, I'm out of breath. So as technology advances, we're going to shrink in size, and as we shrink in size, I think we're going to depend less on the environment. Like, take the ant. What if the ant was us one day, and it advanced so much where it doesn't need anything else?
I was about to ask you, do you think the ants are more advanced than we are?
I definitely do, because looking at the structure of their bodies and the weight that they can carry and what they survive on and where they survive, they take so little from this planet.
There's no politics involved.
There is.
Everybody knows what to do. The same thing with the honeybees. Strictly organized. Everybody has his own role. Everybody knows what to do. Yep. I mean, there's still a few outcasters, but not. Yeah, that's true.
I have 2 different hives in Palms and in my house.
Yeah.
And I've got stung twice already. But I'm not leaving them alone. We need them.
No, we do. We definitely do. I mean, even... I don't know why, but the human race decides that we're apex predators and creatures. And, I mean, yeah, we're advanced and we pretty much take over the whole planet. But we're way too egocentric. Take any law and any rule in any country around the globe. There is no law that says that it's illegal to kill a goat. Who said that the goat's rights are not important? Or who said that if we decide to build a power plant in California, it's gonna affect Gulf of California and the whales cannot swim in there, it's against their rights. So yeah, and if you scale it up, we are tiny creatures on tiny marble rotating around the tiny sun that flies around the galaxy with the speed of hundreds of thousand miles a second. And we think that we're not lucky enough because we didn't get enough likes on Instagram because nobody likes our new haircut. So yeah, we're very, very egocentric, but I think we're on a age of evolving step up or destroying ourselves. And based of evidence and historical books and all the stuff, that this is the 6th try that we're going through, because we've had civilizations before that pretty much end up destroying each other and going back to a Stone Age. So we'll see how it happens. Either we're going to learn how to start a fire, or we're going to implement the artificial intelligence. Going back to reality, when it comes to good joke, what's your favorite joke?
Well, there's many, but one in particular that I can think of right now is out in nature. There's a pond, and a fly is flying 6 inches above the water. And a fish from the water is looking up thinking, if the fly drops 6 inches, I can go up and grab it. The bear sees this and starts thinking, if the fly drops 6 inches, the fish is going to go up. I'll quickly go grab the fish.
Uh-huh.
The hunter sees this and thinks, if the fly drops 6 inches, the fish is going to go up, the bear's going to go after, and I'll go shoot the bear. The cat sees this and thinks, if the fly drops 6 inches, fish is going to go up, the bear's going to go after, hunter's going to go after, and he brought a picnic basket. I'll just go in there and I'll have a feast. What do you know? The fly drops 6 inches. The fish is swimming up. The bear's chasing into the water. The hunter leaves everything. He's aiming. The cat is running towards the basket, and the cat falls in the water. The moral of the story is, if the fly drops 6 inches, pussy gets wet.
Yeah. That was a good one. Really good one.
So good joke with a good lesson behind it.
So that was the joke that you promised me.
It's a clean enough joke, but yet with meaning behind it.
That was a good one. And you like to travel.
Yes.
And what's your favorite way of traveling? Actually, let's do this. Let's switch to blitz questions. When it comes to travel, is it airplane or car?
Car preferred.
You got to a new city. Is it a museum or a club?
No, museum.
You're switching to passive rest. Is it laying down on a beach or hiking in the woods?
Hiking in the woods.
You are in new continent and you're trying a food. Is it high-end restaurant or street food?
Street food, definitely.
You are in the desert. You look for oasis or you going back for help? Keep exploring or you're going back to a place you came from?
By myself?
Yeah.
Searching. Exploring.
You're in a jungle. What's your preferred tool? Knife? Axe? Rope?
Machete, probably in a jungle.
Machete. How many ways you know how to start a fire? I know we failed on 2.
Because we didn't try hard enough. But if push came to shove, probably 4.
4.
If life depended on it, 4. 5. You taught me one of them.
God forbid the economy is in deep hole and there is no more valuable things. What do you protect more besides your family? Your finances, your house, your food, or whatever you prefer?
Arsenal. Protect the arsenal.
Water
because
and
it protects
water and bullet.
It protects everything else. But food, because you could be in a cave, you could be in a made up teepee. Food and water. So that would be priority. Yeah. You lose your house, catches on fire, gets burglarized, you're hiding under a stone, you're hiding in a van, or...
What is the continent and which country are you dreaming to visit by yourself?
Switzerland?
Ireland.
Well, Switzerland, and I just recently found out about Switzerland too, but yeah, Ireland and Switzerland.
We're going together.
Nature is beautiful.
What's the place that you would want to visit with your family?
Dubai. That's planned. But me personally, it would be the Asian countries. Japan, China.
Do you prefer to visit places where you can experience the nature or the civilization?
Nature preferred.
All right, let's say a cave in Taiwan or Versailles in Paris.
Probably a cave in Taiwan. Definitely the cave.
Blonde or redhead?
You know the But we were in a lava tube 2 weeks ago, where on the island of Maui, the lava was flowing and the surroundings lava dried, froze, it solidified, and it created a tube where it's probably 20 feet high, 20 feet wide, and for 2 years the lava kept flowing through there, and specific sections it looked like melted chocolate. And on the floor you could still see the last remains of the lava that flowed.
The waves.
Yes. And seeing nature at its best and its strongest, I think there's nothing more fascinating than that.
Amazing.
So the cave, definitely.
Nice. And again, let's go back to reality. How big do you want to be as a business owner? You want to get statewide, citywide, nationwide, worldwide?
With this specific business, I think I want to keep it at this level, because I don't want to say that I'm financially comfortable, but because you're never financially comfortable. But yes, there's opportunities to expand, and there are there's ideas already in the works associated with this line of work, and there's opportunities with another medical field that is being explored right now. State-wise, nation-wise, I would like to stay local, because I've had the experience of both, and I've had the experience of traveling where I'm on the plane 3 times in one day, flying to Vegas, flying to Oregon, and then next day flying back home. It was adventurous, it was fun, but not at this age. And yes, it was fun. Maybe I'll get to that level again once my kids are older and they're at the college years and they're not as dependent on me and they're more individual. Then I'd like to blow it up where I am constantly traveling, and I'm traveling to Montana and traveling back 2 days later, and then traveling to San Jose the next day and back. But for right now, I like to keep it to where I'm very comfortable and it's still profitable. But again, going back to the experience of having a lot of employees and dealing with the workers' comp, insurances and accidents and lawsuits and courts, I'm pretty comfortable, and I don't want that headache, at least not yet.
When it comes to money, there's a lot of sayings that you can hear that there is no happiness in money, and the money doesn't mean anything as long as you're happy. It's not the only meaning. Refer to Dave Ramsey and refer to many other financial gurus that I've read their books and listened to their podcasts. I actually came to a conclusion that money is like a magnifying glass. If you're a good person, it magnifies your power and you're much more helpful. If you're an asshole, then you become
the worst asshole.
Worst asshole. The reason I asked you how big do you want to be is how powerful, how big a good person you want to be, how much stuff you want to accomplish, because the reason that we all go through this road of starting our own journey and starting our own business and beating a competition and fighting through all these laws and regulations and COVID and financial downturns. The whole reason behind this is not because you want to be recognized as the greatest CPR instructor. You have a meaning, you have some dreams that you want to accomplish, and this is the source of the energy that you can get by having enough knowledge of teaching other people and certifying them in first aid and having enough funds to fulfill your dreams. So, what are they?
So, going back to the initial conversation does money make you happy? I have two sides of that story. Growing up, we grew up in an era and in a country where electricity was limited, water was limited, and that, not having a lot of money and not having a lot of wealth, it pushed us to be in one room with the family.
Yeah.
And at that time, we didn't appreciate it. But right now, when I think about it, I appreciate that more because relatives would come. We would have one candlelight or one lamp, oil-lit lamp, and we would sit around. The people listening might think I'm from 1850s. But that united us more. And that was one of my battles of only having one television at home. So if kids are watching TV, they're in the living room with us. But unfortunately, I gave in, and each one has a TV in their own bedroom. Or, yes, if it's not the TV, it's their phones and their iPads. And that separates us. So not having the money united us more. But having the money and having the opportunity where I sometimes sit there and think to myself, is there anything that I want that I don't have? And usually the answer is no. Yeah, obviously, I want a jet. I want my own yacht. But we're dreaming, because when you dream and you dream big, your dreams eventually become a reality.
Sometimes it's scary.
It's scary. But as far as having the financial needs, there was this... it's not a joke, it's just more of a saying. If you had a genie, what's the one wish that you would make? Everybody says, oh, I want 2 additional wishes, 10 additional wishes. But the smartest one I've heard is, every time I want to pay for something, for the exact change to be in my pocket. It's going to be a big pocket if you're buying a house. But when you think about it, every time you want to buy something, the exact change, whether it's chewing gum, you have $1.50 in your pocket, or whether you're buying a car, you have the 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, whatever. And with having the financial freedom and stability, me, myself, I want to see other people thrive. I want to see other people happy. If I know a family member or a friend is in a certain situation where they're in a financial burden, or even if they don't mention it, but if you can help them out in a way or another where you're not expecting anything back, I think that would give me the greatest satisfaction. Like I mentioned earlier, with the financial freedom, having your own land and having your own animals. With that, obviously, if you have somebody in need of anything, whether it's hunger and the deer that you saved on the side of the road, sacrifice for a good cause, or whether it's shelter that you provide for somebody without it being debt, where you're not loaning it to somebody and expecting it in return, or you're not providing goods or service to an individual and hoping that next day you're going to ask for them something in return. So I think that's with the full financial independence and having that ability where the genie grants you that wish, then I think anybody that came across me would be the happiest person.
Don't you have feeling sometimes that we're actually on a hunt of people who actually struggle? Because all you see is like pretty much everybody's comfortable enough and everybody's looking for someone to help. I don't know, it's just weird. We can cut this off.
I wouldn't say that you're in hunt, but going back to when we first started the conversation and the donation part, where if, let's say, I have to get a haircut and there's a barbershop across the street from me. Okay, I need to get my shoe polished. So I have a rip in my pants and I need to tailor. And there's one across the street, but I know that there's this one individual that is 30 minutes away from me, and if I go to his tailor shop, he's going to do the same quality of work. The quality might even be less. But I know that my financial contribution is going to benefit him more. I'll go out of that way. And in our fraternity, I've talked to other brothers where, whether it's a body shop, mechanic shop, specific individuals where they've told me, yeah, I do the same thing. I go to this one specific business because of these reasons. Because, yes, there's a more convenient location nearby or a place that provides better service, but I go there just because I know that it's the contribution. You're going to do it anyways. You're going to pay the money, whether you're paying $1 for a cup or you're paying $15 for putting a button back together. Yeah. Whatever it is. But why not give it to, like you said, if somebody's in need, just give it to them. Some people will think a little differently and they'll say, oh, I don't want to help them because they put themselves in it. But no, for me, if I can help somebody out, not that I'm looking for the karma, but my life experience has showed me that karma always comes back, whether it's good or bad.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Let's imagine that we're becoming popular and there is a person watching us now, and that person is at the point of making decision to start the business.
Jump off the building.
That's a gym. That's a jump. That's a big jump. What's your number one advice? What should that person do?
So, doesn't matter. Definitely do it. Definitely do it. Number one advice for that individual is customer service. It doesn't matter if you're a public servant, could be a police officer, a garbage man, a police officer, somebody that's a prostitute, somebody that is a doctor, somebody that is a shop owner, somebody that's a producer. Customer service is the number one advice. Doesn't matter what line of work you're in, customer service. Enhance and hone that skill. If you can provide customer service, you can do any job you want. You can own any business and succeed in it.
Vahag, 10 years ago, with the knowledge that you have, would you start your own business again?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No doubts?
No doubts.
No regrets?
None whatsoever. None whatsoever.
Whoever's watching us, guys, here is a bright example of a person who's fighting and providing quality service in a community in Los Angeles. And Vahag, thanks for stopping by. And I'm looking forward for episode number 2 with you.
Absolutely.
And good luck with the business that you're running.
Thank you.
And for you guys, if you ever decide to use Vahag Zakharyan services, EA Certs, the detailed information is going to be provided below. And for us, don't forget to like, subscribe. What's there on Spotify? Share, bless the algorithm, ring the bell,
Tell your friends.
say a prayer, whatever it is. And I'll see you next week with our next guest. Vahag, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
It's been a blast. Looking forward to see you again here.
Likewise.
Cheers.